The people of Uvalde, Texas are in mourning, and we grieve with them, an entire nation. And our hearts go out to the victims of the other 26 school shootings that have taken place across the United States so far this year. And let me say that again. There have been 27 shootings on school campuses this year alone that have resulted in injury or death. One is too many. 27 is a stain on our country. And Congress must act to address this epidemic of gun violence. And it's not just limited to schools. We're still grieving for the 10 innocent people who were gunned down in a hateful racist attack in Buffalo, New York at a supermarket. In both Texas and New York, the shooters happened to be troubled 18-year-olds. The Buffalo mass shooter was taken into custody just months before the shooting because he made threats about shooting. Nevertheless, despite the fact that state police ordered him to have a psychiatric evaluation, he was able to walk into a local gun shop, plunk down his money, pass a background check, and legally purchase a Bushmaster XM15, an assault weapon. And let me tell you, I used to carry an assault weapon for a living when I was in the Army. These weapons are designed to kill people. They're not hunting weapons. They're not target weapons. They are designed to kill people.
There are things that we can do. Background checks, assault weapons, and overcapacity magazine bans, protective orders, red flag orders, ghost gun bans, and immunity repeal. We can do those things. And they're things that the American public wants us to do. In some cases, 9 out of 10 Americans want us to do those things. But the NRA as an institution stands in the way. And at some point, we're going to need to address the fact of what is happening in our politics, that it can be taken over by big special interests so that the American people aren't listened to any longer. And it's not just on guns. The same forces that are blocking action on guns are blocking action on climate change, are behind voter suppression around the country, are packing the Supreme Court to get their way so they don't have to use democracy because they know that what they want, the public does not want. So it's time to be so sick of this that we're willing to take on the institutions that make it possible rather than just grieve when these horrors take place.
The national conversation around federal, again, gun legislation absolutely must be reignited. While no one solution is perfect, we have to do everything we can in our power to prevent guns from getting into the wrong hands. So beyond these things, we can also start by ensuring that no one can buy a firearm in this country without a background check. Now, the House of Representatives has already passed H.R. 8, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act, to require a background check on every gun sale, regardless of where the sale occurs. Recent polling tells us that nearly 90% of Americans support this policy. So there's no reason to delay. Now, the House has already also passed H.R. 1446, the Enhanced Background Checks Act, which would allow the background check process to take up to 20 business days as opposed to the current 3. It's time for the Senate to act. I thank Senator Reid and Senator Whitehouse for their leadership in supporting this type of common sense background check legislation. These pieces of legislation will help us close the Charleston loophole, which allows sellers to transfer ownership of a firearm to a buyer if a background check cannot be completed within 3 days, as well as fixing the gun show loophole, which allows unlicensed private sellers to transfer guns without conducting any background check at all on a purchaser. And beyond background checks, though, we need to have a functioning head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
And it is my expectation that the House Judiciary Committee is going to come back and pass another set of bills to send to the floor and ultimately to the Senate. And we're going to keep doing that and let the American people see that there is one party that is fighting hard for common sense gun safety legislation, and there's another party, the Republican Party, that is unwilling to join us in this fight, in part because of what Senator Whitehouse explained of the influence of the gun lobby and the money that they spend. But when children can't go to school in America and feel safe, when parents are sending their kids to school wondering if they're going to come home alive, and I had 2 people yesterday say, should I start homeschooling my kids? We are failing children in America by not responding to this level of gun violence. We have solutions. We're going to keep fighting to pass them and get them to the president's desk. But we need our Republican colleagues to understand the urgency of this moment, and the American people are going to demand that we enact common sense gun safety legislation, and they will not tolerate being required to live in a country with this level of gun violence. This is a peculiar American problem. This doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, this level of gun violence, and we have a responsibility to do everything we can to put an end to it. I'm really proud to be part of a delegation that's completely committed to that.